Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Career Choice Series webinar on Science, Technology, and the Law. The Career Choice Series is designed to help you choose your career path. Whether you're a law student, young lawyer, or transitioning attorney, find out what it's like to work in various practice areas and the best way to position yourself to get there. The Career Choice Series is brought to you by ABA Legal Career Central, Law Student Division, Young Lawyers Division, and Section of Science and Technology Law. The section of Science and Technology Law provides leadership on emerging issues at the intersection of law, science, and technology, and promotes sound policy and public understanding on such issues. The Young Lawyers Division is here to help new lawyers navigate the early years of their career and law students prepare for life after law school. The Law Student Division has just introduced premium benefits, which include a savings of $250 on Barbary Bar Review, $25 off West Academic Casebooks, and a legal ethics bundle that includes a free Model Rules of Professional Conduct ebook. Upgrade to premium for $25. Sign up today at abaforlawstudents.com/go-premium. ABA Legal Career Central is a career center that offers both career development resources and a job board for law students, lawyers, and other legal professionals across all disciplines and career stages. I am your moderator, Emily Roschek, Associate Director of ABA Legal Career Central. Welcome to the program. I'm very excited to introduce our two wildly experienced panelists today. And they would like to share their career paths, which intersect with science, technology, and the law. Both have blended careers and are both past chairs of the ABA section of Science and Technology Law. Eric Drogin uses his JD and a degree in psychology for a multidisciplinary practice that encompasses mental health law, expert witness testimony, and trial consultation. Additionally, he is an adjunct professor on trial advocacy and authors numerous articles on psychiatry and the law. Hugh Wellons has a degree in business administration and is a partner at Spilman, Thomas & Battle, focusing on corporate law, banking and finance law, securities, and biotechnology law. Welcome to the program, both of you. Thanks for being here. I'd like to start with an overview of your practice areas. Eric, can I start with you?
Hi, my name's Eric Drogin. Very happy to be here, although if you look at those two pictures you just saw, I think my co-presenter Hugh is probably happier. I've got a blended law psychological practice that combines consultation, meaning going and helping other people do their jobs, representation, helping them out in court when they've done their jobs poorly, maybe getting sued over it, teaching in the medical school and also in the law school, and various public service things, including my work with the ABA. And I understand we'll have a chance to talk later about just how much the ABA can do for a legal career. One of the biggest challenges for me is to remember what hat I'm wearing on any particular day and in any particular context. And when you have a blended career, when you're combining two different areas, you try to avoid it being the worst of both worlds. In my case, the other psychologists may get uptight when they think I'm trying to cross-examine them. The other lawyers may get uptight if they think I'm trying to psychoanalyze them. When I tell my friends that I work with these two different groups of people, and one group is a lot of fun to work with and insightful and recognizes other feelings and so forth, and then the second group is kind of uptight and hung up on rules, they're often surprised to learn that I'm really talking about the lawyers in the first instance and the psychologists in the second. Give me lawyers any day. Legal practice is a terrific way to go. And I'd like to hand it over to Hugh.
Thanks, Eric. This is Hugh. First of all, I'd like to point out that Emily referred to us both as wildly experienced, which I think is a euphemism for old.
No.
But we'll leave that aside. I'm a corporate attorney. Unlike Eric, I seldom go to court. In fact, if you see me in court, I may be the defendant. I write contracts, I do securities advice and filings, I advise on business formations, mergers, financing, If some of you are going to sleep right now, don't worry, Eric will be back soon. I currently split my practice between financial institutions and high-tech startups. It's kind of like working with buggy whips and lasers at the same time. What combines them is that that means that I'm dealing with two of the most heavily regulated legal practices known. So that kind of keeps me on my toes. And now I'll hand it back to Emily.
Thank you, Hugh. Maybe I should have said vast experience. Is that better? Let's switch over now to your respective career paths. Hugh, can we start with you?
Sure. I had undergraduate degrees in philosophy and business, and there's a long story there that I won't get into. But I also got a master's in business and then worked at IBM for several years as an international buyer, financial analyst. And my last job was head of the team that was in charge of the budget analysis and reporting for a very large manufacturing site of IBM. Then I left and went to law school. I knew going in that I wanted to do business law, not litigation, so I focused my class work on those topics. After law school, I went to work for a large firm in Richmond, Virginia, where I became a partner working primarily in financial institutions and securities. Although I sometimes was pulled into other matters, probably 80% of my practice was in mergers and acquisitions, securities law, and regulatory law. Family needs forced us to move to Roanoke, Virginia, a much smaller market and not a financial center. It became evident quickly that I could not make a living only on financial institutions and securities work. So I began going up to Blacksburg, Virginia, Virginia Tech, and Charlottesville, Virginia, UVA, and meeting people up there, particularly at the respective intellectual properties divisions, who managed the licensing of IP developed at the universities. This was before 2000, and there were not a lot of quote-unquote technology lawyers around. I began to pick up work there from contracts and referrals, and that grew to become a large portion of my practice. Eric?
Well, I went through a few undergraduate majors in college, probably like a lot of the folks on this call. It's very often the case that a lawyer is somebody who majored in English but realized that a lot of people already spoke English, or majored in political science and realized that technically overthrowing the government is against the law. I liked psychology, having gone through theater, I decided at one point I was going to be a translator of German and French. Then I found out you had to learn German and French. I wound up in psychology, was graduating and realizing that you're not allowed to do psychology without going and doing about 37 more years of school. So I ordered a bunch of catalogs, and back in the day they would actually print these things out and send them to you in the mail, like the magazines that you see your grandparents reading. And I saw these programs where you could combine law and psychology at the same time, which really fit my kind of expansive take over the world, early 20s kind of attitude back then. Very 1980s, even for the few of us who weren't using cocaine during that period. And I thought, well, this would be great. I'll do them both at the same time. My girlfriend told me that this didn't really make sense because she could see me being a lawyer but not a psychologist. Was very upset by this, broke it off with her, sued her for negligent infliction of emotional distress. So I guess to this day she realized she was right. I really was probably more designed to be a lawyer. And
please tell me you were kidding. You didn't really sue her, did you?
No.
Okay, good.
A real lawyer told me that I didn't have a case.
Okay, good.
So I went and did my dissertation, and it was about consultation of the legal profession. I realized that when you go to graduate school or law school, you actually get to decide what kind of professional you're going to be, and they'll teach you. It was amazing to me. And once I graduated from those programs, I was wrapping up my training. I went to Kentucky because my wife had connections with the area, and I was sick of living in the city. Signed on to do some training at the local medical school, and wound up getting hired there and getting into legal work locally, and the whole thing just sort of took off. Everything that I've ever done in my career ever since then has really been a question of just doing what's awfully hard for some of us, which is to walk in and introduce myself. You just have to go in there and tell them what you're willing to do. It's kind of similar to the first night when you get arrested and they put you in a jail cell. You go and you punch out the biggest person there, and after then, things seem to go fairly well.
Oh, hopefully no one will have to get that physical after this. Well, thank you very much, Eric. So it sounds like you have done a lot of different things with your career. So I know this might be a difficult question, but what is a day in the life of your practice?
It's different all the time. You know, they say that variety is the spice of life. My doctors told me to cut back on spicy food, and I kind of get her point, because it can be pretty exhausting not knowing what you're going to do from day to day. But to give you an example, yesterday I wound up working with two clients, one of whom was accused of killing his girlfriend. I'm sure you'd agree that's much worse than suing. Another one of whom had a whole string of different problems, but the issue for that poor fellow was the abuse he had suffered over the course of his life, and it was really more what the criminal folks will realize as a mitigation case. Today, I'm doing this online offering and loving it, and as soon as we hang up here, I'll be testifying online in a post-conviction case about how some of my colleagues may have messed things up, and then I will jump in my car and drive 3 hours away because there was a triple homicide in another county, and they want somebody to see this poor person right away. It is always something different all the time, and I like it that way.
Wow, thanks for that. Hugh, can you tell us about a day in the life of, switching gears now to the business law sector of this area?
Literally I'm sorry, I had it on mute. Literally every day is different. Since my practice is varied, I'm not as specialized as I used to be. I may have a day completely covered up in securities law or banking law, or as I had yesterday, working on the structure of a life science startup Class A funding round, and working on issues of avoiding taxation and for the founder and setting it up in a way that makes sense. Right after this meeting, I have another meeting with the client and the landlord over a business lease dispute for a, they hope, large manufacturing space. It's kind of like winter weather in southern Appalachia. It changes constantly, and I like that.
Yeah, Chicago weather changes just as much, so I totally understand. Well, thank you. Let's move on.
But it's colder.
Is it? Yeah. So, Eric, let's start with you. Please tell us a few things that you love about your practice and some challenges that you face.
What I love about this practice is almost everything, as you can tell just from the way I discuss it. I love working with the other lawyers. The clients are fascinating to me. This is exciting stuff. When you actually get to practice law, for the law students, I was one too, it really does happen, sometimes an alarming suddenness. You're not in class anymore, you're out there doing it. It's exciting, the challenge is great. There's a pride to be taken in doing something well, or at least that's what people tell me. Also, when you're consulting and running around, the travel can be a lot of fun, and you can also make a considerable amount of money. And, you know, I'll actually mention this, that I billed over $500,000 last year. I don't say that to brag, because I know a lot of people who bill more than that, but the idea is that once you're out of school and not microwaving up those ramen noodles every night, life can change awfully quickly. And some people are interested in making the money, some aren't, but there is a very comfortable living to be had in the practice of law, if that's the direction you decide to take it. What do I not like? The absolute worst thing about my practice is the scheduling. I'd like to do everything, And another of my fantasies is that other people actually want me to do stuff for them. But trying to be in a few places at one time, for those of you who were physics majors before becoming lawyers, you know what I'm talking about. It's really not possible. That's what'll wear you down.
All right, thank you, Eric. Hugh, what about you? What do you love and hate about your practice?
Like Eric, I really enjoy the variety. I thrive on it. I even like the occasional immediacy of client needs. I mean, we had a fairly quick closing we had to put together middle of last year on a very complicated sale of a business, and for 2 weeks I was almost living, and it was out of town. I was almost living at the office out of town. And it's exciting. It gets your juices flowing. I enjoy trying to figure things out. Most of the answers in what I do have a lot of components, and I enjoy most of my clients. My finance clients are mostly small town bankers, and you can't succeed as a banker in a small town if people don't like you. My other clients largely are trying to save the world in their own small or large way, and they're good people. What I don't like is that most clients think almost everything is a crisis. That gets old. I also don't like the constant footsteps of regulation that drown out many small businesses. Regulation has grown to ridiculous proportions. I don't like the fact that in some cases my clients believe that what they are asking should be simple, and they get very frustrated when it's not. But that's part of our job as lawyers, explaining to people what the issues are.
Yes, very true. So that is actually a good segue into the next question I'd like to cover what are the top 3 skills that someone would need to practice in your area? And Hugh, let me start with you.
Yeah, and I thought a lot about this one, and I cannot name 3 skills for all of technology law. It depends on what area of technology law is your focus. My area requires a lot of different skills, including business, securities law, some tax law, finance, IP licensing, and so forth. But whatever your focus, you need to work at learning how to explain what needs to be done and why in very simple terms, as the point I made in the previous section. You need to discover what you don't know. I don't know tax law, but I can spot issues and bring in a tax lawyer when I need her. I'm not a patent lawyer, but I have a pretty good understanding of what would and would not qualify for patent protection and the primary considerations for an effective IP license. I call in a patent lawyer when I need her. Learn to spot problems out of your expertise so you know when to call in the cavalry. And learn to dig relentlessly into the facts behind what the client wants to do. Often it's that last question, the one that seems stupid, that inspires a client to start a stream of consciousness that uncovers a critical fact the client didn't even think of mentioning because they didn't know it wasn't important. So those are the 3 sort of general skill sets that I'd recommend. Eric?
Yes, all very important. Yes, thank you. Eric?
Well, Hugh, mine are similar. It may have a lot to do with the fact that we've both managed to stick around so long. There are certain things that wind up...
Oh, you mean because we're wildly experienced?
Indeed.
Vastly.
We've hung in here for 20 minutes already, so... I had 3 of them, and being a blended career guy, they were blended skills. The first of which would be humility mixed with apparent self-confidence. We all have our self-doubts, but people are not hiring us as lawyers to be nervous and confused. There's nothing wrong with admitting that we don't know everything, but we let the clients know early on that we're prepared to go and find these things out. I talked about leaving school, but as a lawyer, you never leave school. You're going to wind up getting an education in something. How do cell phone towers work? What is an intelligence test? What are the 8,700 different types of cancer when you're trying to figure out something in a hospital-based matter? You're always learning. So you want to be humble, and at the same time, you want to convey to people that you know your stuff and that you'll stick with it. That gets to the second blended skill, which is drive mixed with patience. You've got to be able to come sailing out of the rack first thing in the morning and attack the job. But at the same time, not everybody is invested in the kind of type A lifestyle that goes with being a lawyer. It's tempting sometimes to try to drag the judge and the jury and lawyers on both sides of the aisle and the clients and the witnesses, expert or lay, along with you. But that's really not always possible. You're dealing with people, and you have to be prepared to ride out things that aren't moving at your own pace. And then the third one is curiosity mixed with a tolerance for tedium. The law is not always exciting. You're going to learn a lot. You're always going to be finding things out and having a great time. But there are periods where you will be sitting in the courtroom for hours waiting for somebody else to finish. You never know what the pace is going to be. It may be dictated for you. Overall, you want to find something special in yourself in terms of what you know, in terms of what you like, in terms of what you can demonstrate that you've done in your career, and that's what will set you apart from the crowd. It's a competitive business by design.
And I'd like to put in here that the skills you need may be skills you don't even know you have. You don't need an advanced science degree to be a technology lawyer. You don't need to have an accounting degree to be a business lawyer. It helps, but one of the best people I've ever met at reading financial statements was a history major and just learned it on the fly. So don't talk yourself out of something because you didn't major in it undergrad.
Couldn't agree more. We had a lecturer tell us once that in America we purchase our credentials. That's kind of true. You don't have to go another tens of thousands of dollars into debt to get fancy academic credentials to wind up specializing in an area that the way you design it overlaps with the law.
Yeah, that's very helpful. I was going to throw that in there. A lot of our listeners are either law students or 0 to 3 years practicing and may not have thought about going to have a science background and moving into a science area of law, and we're probably curious about that kind of thing.
And if I could give a quick example.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of private and some public offerings involving very high-level science, particularly life science. And what I tell my clients is, I'll buy, microbiology for dummies or something like that to give me a just kind of a very basic background. But what I tell clients is that if you can't explain it to me so that I understand it, then you can't explain it to somebody who wants to invest in you. So everything in technology law, again, does not require that high level of knowledge. It just requires some common sense and some practical experience.
And you'll be amazed at how quickly you can pick it up. The ABA published a book a few years entitled Science for Lawyers, and it's not just a sleep aid. When you go in there, you find out that you can package these sorts of things in very understandable, very usable bits that can enhance practice and support the clients.
Thank you, Eric. Actually, that rolls well into our next question, which I would like to cover, is how has ABA involvement boosted your career? You both were past chairs of the ABA section of Science and Technology Law, and I'd love to hear a little bit more about how getting involved in either the ABA or other organizations has helped. Hugh, can I start with you?
You bet. I'm a great believer in the old Woody Allen concept that 85% of life is showing up. For the first many years of my practice, I was marginally active in the ABA's business law section, which is a great educational resource. But I didn't go to the annual meeting. I was not active in the section in a meaningful way. I probably was not getting my money's worth, but that was on me. When our family moved back to Southwest Virginia and I started spending a lot more time up in Blacksburg or in Charlottesville, I started to accumulate technology clients, particularly in life sciences, which I knew next to nothing about. A friend of a friend was in the ABA section of Science and Technology Biotechnology Law Committee. I said, gee, that sounds cool. Let me get on that. And I joined primarily for the listserv and the ability to reach out to and learn from and ask questions of people who actually did biotechnology law and knew the concepts. That access was priceless. I became active in the committee and later in the section, eventually becoming chair of the committee and later chair of the section. When I was chair of the committee, I looked at it and I said, gee, for people who have one client or somebody who is hired to be an in-house counsel for a startup biotech company, where is the source material? And there wasn't any. So I said, we need to publish a primer on biotechnology law. And we reached out through that committee and through the section to people who were truly experts in the field and got them to do chapters. And we published a book that became an ABA bestseller, and we're working on the second edition now. That work helped me to develop a skill set that I did not have. And I still call on the contacts I made. Those leadership positions and the book provided also sort of an imprimatur of my skill set whenever I visit a new client. Gee, do you have a chemistry degree or a biology degree or whatever? And the answer is no. But I've been doing this for a while, and here's some evidence of that. And that really, it really helps to break the ice with new clients. So the ABA has been incredibly valuable to my practice. Eric?
Well, my career path within the ABA has been very similar to Hugh's. We've occupied a lot of the same roles. I can just add briefly that there were really four things that have boosted my career due to my involvement with the ABA, one of which is, as Hugh's mentioned a few times, the context. Just the business opportunities that arise from being thrown in with a bunch of other like-minded folks doing similar work. The exposure, one of the best things I ever saw in the ABA is when I wandered into a meeting of that biotechnology committee. I didn't know anything about biotech. I found that there were all sorts of ways that it intersected with my practice. And another one had to do with electronic discovery. The American Bar Association was in there before anybody else, producing some terrific resources in the area. Had a lot to do with my work in ways that I never even considered. The third one would be inspiration, because it's just amazing to see what other people do. And then the bragging rights that come with being associated with an outfit like the ABA, and with, if you're willing to put in the time, the various roles that you can play within the organization. It's helpful in business as an attorney, and it's a nice thing to be able to point to when you're functioning as a consultant or expert witness as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Let's now turn it over to the audience to see if they have any additional questions. Okay, it doesn't look like we have any more questions, so I will go ahead and wrap this up. I want to thank both Hugh and Eric for sharing your very exciting and meandering and interesting career paths in a blended area. I just
wildly experienced.
Wow, vastly experienced. So attendees, thank you too for attending today. Please be sure to check out our website at abalcc.org for upcoming career-related articles and webinars. I'm displaying some on the screen right now. We also will have recordings posted, and we have a couple career advice series webinars coming up. This is also in the download. And then we do have a new legal career chat that we're organizing where you can explore mergers and acquisitions in corporate governance from an attorney who has been dubbed a mover and shaker, a legal eagle, and a disruptor. And please feel free to check out our jobs board at jobs.americanbar.org and link with us on all our social media outlets. Before leaving, please complete our short survey, and thank you again for joining us, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.